let's get started. So we're going to start at a fragment in Enoch, which they use, and it is about the birth of Noah. Now I'm going to give a quick rundown of it. So Noah was born as albino. It says his skin was white as snow and red as the blooming of a rose. Now they mention this, but let's get to the part where they really use this fragment to push their doctrine. So let's read this. Methuselah took a wife for his son Lamech, and she bore him a man-child. The body of the babe was white as snow and red as a blooming rose, and the hair of his head and his locks were white as wool, and his eyes like the rays of the sun. When he opened his eyes, he lightened up the whole house like the sun, and the whole house was very full of light. And when he was taken from the hand of the midwife, he opened his mouth and praised the Lord of righteousness. His father Lamech was afraid of him, and he fled and came to his own father Methuselah, and said to him, I have begotten a strange son. He is not like human being, but resembles the children of the angels of heaven, and his nature is different, and he is not like us, and his eyes are as the rays of the sun. So this is exactly what they do. So in the first part, it tells us that Noah was albino. He had white skin, and then his father goes to his dad and says that he's a strange son, and that he thinks he might be one of the children of the angels. And they say, see, the fallen angels were white. But we're going to go back and we're going to learn that there's more to it than that. So they say, they keen in on the white part. But one thing I really like to mention here is the eyes. I don't know about you, but I've never seen a white person who has the eyes to be able to light up an entire household. And one thing that we're going to find out through studying the book of Enoch is, were the children of the fallen angels simply Caucasian people, or was the white skin not the whole identifying factor, and there was other identifying traits and factors of the fallen seed children, and the white skin was not supposed to be put on a billboard and just shown to be the main problem. Now let's continue on, because we're going to learn a lot of things about this. Now this is something that I want to bring up right now. I brought up a little bit of this in episode 3. Now, according to Enoch, chapter 15, verse 8, we know that the giants were the children of the fallen angels, and demons are disembodied spirits of Nephilim. Now, one thing that I did not mention is there's many stories, specifically among yoga, which I might do a teaching on the satanic origins of yoga sometime in the future for some of my women viewers, because mostly women do yoga. I don't see a lot of dudes doing it. But yoga is actually highly satanic. And why am I bringing up yoga in a fallen seed video? Well, a lot of white women, commonly referred to as Caucasians, have taken place in yoga classes, and they have talked about being possessed by demons and seeing scary faces and being attacked at night. And why is this important? Because during the Bible, a demon has never attacked a demon. Remember what Christ said, a house divided against itself cannot stand, because the Pharisees accused him of being a demon, but he literally just casted a demon out of a man. And he said, how can Satan cast out Satan? So why would a demon torment a demon? Because if white people are the descendants of the fallen seed, just because they have light skin, then that means they would be demons, which means they would be incapable of being able to be possessed. But there are so many stories, heck, anyone who's been to a big city in the United States has seen it, of white people having to have demons casted out, and have had demon activity from watching these horror movies, maybe drugs and a whole bunch of other horrible things. So that automatically puts a big hole in this ship, because throughout the entire Torah, a demon has never possessed a demon. How can a demon possess a demon? How can Satan possess Satan? And why would a demon feel the need to attack one of his own? So that proves it right there, because Nephilim can't get possessed. Demons cannot get possessed because they're already a demon. It's not possible. So that really wipes the floor clean with this right there. So despite, them taking the white skin thing and running with it, the fact that we know that the fallen seed are demons really kills this thing right now. But let's keep moving on, because I want to show you that even though the Bible mentioned fallen seed having white skin, we're going to learn that that was not the only trait. As we just saw in the last episode, they had horns, they had the bodies of animals, they were fish, sirens, so many other things. Some had 2 rows of teeth, the giants. So for you to say, oh, light skin is no, no. All right, let's get to right here. We're in Enoch chapter 7, and we're going to read this right now. And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives. These are the fallen angels, and each chose for himself one. And they began to go into them and to defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enhancements and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And they made 3, and they 3 became pregnant, and they bare great giants. They bear great giants. So it associates the children of the Nephilim being giants or becoming giants. So it was never just about, oh, they're light, oh, they're fair. There's nothing you can find in Enoch that tells you that the fallen seeds were just normal, just your normal Caucasian people. They were not Caucasian. They were not white people in the slightest. These fallen seeds were not white people. I mean, have you seen a white person who's 9 feet tall? If you have, then, I don't know what to tell you. And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants, whose height was 3,000 eels, who consumed for all of the acquaintance of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against 5 them. Oh, sorry, those are the verse numbers. I don't need to say the numbers. Against them, and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh, and to drink blood. So I really want you to key in on the defilement against the birds, beasts, and reptiles, because we already saw in part 3 the half human, half horse. Everybody knows, because Disney's The Little Mermaid. Everybody knows about the half woman, half fish. And there's a lot of talk, about this whole reptilian thing, which I'm not sure if I'm going to go into that. I might, but I don't know. So keep the reptiles in mind as well, and the beasts and the birds. The birds is very important too, because in Greek mythology, there is a woman who's half bird. None of this stuff is new. You see a lot of this stuff in cartoons. You think it's all cute and stuff, but it actually comes from something. And another thing I like to point out is how the book of Enoch talks about that the fallen seed became the champions of men, and that they were worshipped by God as gods. And all around the world, in black and white communities, the fallen seeds were worshipped as gods. So that's another hole in this doctrine as well. So the Greeks, Europeans, were worshiping fallen seed, just like the black Egyptians are worshiping their own version of fallen seed. So if white means fallen seed, why would the Greeks be worshiping themselves? And the scripture clearly tells us that they're not worshiping themselves, they're worshiping the fallen angels who became the champions of men. That's what this is all about. So you really need to put all of this in the context and to understand, because whenever I see somebody teach this, they don't mention the fact that the fallen seed had horns. They don't mention that they had fish bodies. They don't mention that they were half horse, half pig, that they were reptilian. They don't mention that this stuff. They just say, well, Noah was white, and his father, was thought that he was not his child, and he was of the angels and stuff like that there. So, and that's another thing that's going to lead into a whole different thing that I'm about to do next. They talk about the white skin part, but they ignore the part that Noah was 100% human and pure, and he was white. So they're saying that, they're falsely saying that white skin is not a human trait. Meanwhile, one of the most purest, best men in the Bible literally had fair skin. And I brought this up in episode 3, but throughout Bible history that white skin was not the problem. It's because there were albinos among the Israelites. There were people, there were albinos and there were leopards with white skin, and the Israelites never had no problem with it. They were not scared of it. So clearly, the part about the horns and the being half fish and being the half goat, and the giants is what we need to be focusing on, because the Israelites were not focusing on what skin color you were. And there were people among them who were albinos or leopards, but yet the Israelites did not view them as being less human than them. Just like I mentioned in the last episode, in the book of Maccabees, when the Greeks came in and invaded Jerusalem, the Israelites viewed that as being conquered by another nation. They never viewed that as a Nephilim invasion. So if they associated white skin as evil, then why did they not list Maccabees as a fallen seed invasion? Because the scriptures are very clear. King David, going to kill the giants in the land of Canaan or something like that. They knew very well who was human and who was not. But yet they never mentioned the Greeks as being non-human. They never did. And then you go into the New Testament, I brought this up as well, but they mention the barbarians, the white tribes, the Scythians, and all the other barbarians. Paul mentioned them as being eligible for salvation. So if fair skin is evil, then why would he even say that? You see, they don't do none of this. You got to put this in context and read everything. But I'm going to move on to Noah being an albino and the fact that Noah had white skin, and we're going to find some stuff out, and it's going to be very, very interesting, and it's going to prove that there's only one human race. It's just all of us humans, no matter you be, black, brown, white, red, we all go back to Adam and Eve. It's just us and the fallen seed. It's just us. Now, this is going to be very insightful. But before I move on, I would just like to make one point. I've heard people try to argue that because Noah was fair-skinned, that he was fallen seed. But these people don't even know the Table of Nations. It's because they don't understand Ham, the sons of Noah wasn't just Ham and Japheth. They were Shem too. So if you're trying to push a false narrative and say that, white skin's evil and white skin is Nephilim, and that's what, white skin always is, well, then that means that we're fallen seed too, because Shem came from Noah as well. So that means with that doctrine that nobody on this earth is eligible for salvation, so everything's pointless, because that would mean Shem is fallen. That would mean Shemites aren't human. That would mean Japhethites aren't human, and that would mean Hamites are not human. So they're basically saying the whole flood was for nothing. So I just hope you guys understand, the absurdity of these people. But let's move on.